to Inside Personal Growth Podcast. Deep dive with us as we unlock the secrets to personal development, empowering you to thrive. Here, growth isn't just a goal, it's a journey. Tune in, transform, and take your life to the next level by listening to just one of our podcasts. Well, welcome back to Inside Personal Growth. This is Greg Voisen, the host of Inside Personal Growth. And joining me from La Jolla, California, basically like a hop, skip, and a jump away from Encinitas here, is Arielle Ford. And Arielle and I were just talking. The last time she was on the show was February 16th, 2009. And we both got a chuckle from that about her book called The Soulmate Secret. Arielle, how are you?
I'm really good. How are you?
I'm doing really good. I mean, I can't complain about our weather this summer so far. It's been wonderful. I do not mind it at all. So, um, and I was reflecting on the blog entry. You and I met at a leadership conference that was held in Malibu with Mark Victor Hansen and Larry Wilson. And that's how long that goes back. Do you remember that little conference we went to?
I do remember, and Jack Canfield was there.
Yep, yeah.
And I remember sitting under a tree taking a lot of notes, but that's about all I remember.
Yeah, well, we had a good time, and I'm going to let the listeners know just a teeny bit about you before we start talking about your book, which for my listeners and my viewers, you can see it. It's right behind on her shelf in a big picture, and it says The Love Thief. And Arielle is called frequently the Cupid of Consciousness, is a love whisperer, best-selling author, relationship expert on mission to help you find love, keep love, be loved. With 12 books to her name, including The Soulmate Secret, which we just talked about, Turn Your Mate into Your Soulmate, and Wabi Sabi Love. She spent 30 plus years lightening up the personal growth world with wisdom, wit, and her heart. Her debut novel, The Love Thief, we're going to be talking about, is a juicy romantic thriller dubbed Eat, Pray, Love Meets Dirty John. Okay. So, well, here we go. Let's dive right into this because do you have a copy of the book there that you can hold up?
Yes, I do somewhere. No,
All right. It's all right if you don't.
but that's what it looks like.
That's what it looks like. Well, look, it's interesting because the lefty is kind of described as this rip, rocking, rolling spiritual love story. What inspired you after taking this little sabbatical to come back? You said it took you 5 years to write this, to weave together these elements of romance, betrayal, adventure, deep spiritual lessons into a fictional narrative, and especially after writing so many nonfiction books.
Yeah, well, writing a novel was never on my to-do list. I never once had the conscious thought, oh, let me try my hand at fiction. That never happened. But what did happen was this story kept unfolding inside my head like a movie. And it wouldn't go away. It was very persistent. And I kept saying, no, 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 I don't write fiction. I don't want to write fiction. Get out of here. And it wouldn't leave me alone. I was sort of being tortured by the story. So I could see in the movie in my head that most of the story takes place in Rishikesh, India, a place I've been to several times. And I just sat down one day and I said, listen, God, I don't want to write this book. But if it's my destiny, if it's really meant to be for me to write this book, I need a sign. And here's the sign that I need. I need to manifest a $7,000 business class ticket to India to go and do research so I can write down this story. And when I said that, I felt this incredible relief. It was kind of like, that is never going to happen. And 2 days later, I had the ticket in my hand.
No, that's manifestation. That's you.
So off I go to India, and all the things I'm seeing in my head are happening. I'm tripping over the people and the places and the stuff that I'm seeing. So I came home and I started writing and editing and bothering my friends who are writers for feedback. And it took me 5.5 years. but it is a romantic spiritual thriller with a very juicy revenge subplot and a surprise happy ending. And I'm thrilled that I get to now share this story with the world.
Well, and it's a Hay House book. I want everybody to know that. So she has done other books with Hay House. But, Holly's journey begins with this kind of devastating betrayal and accident. So let's let the listeners know a little bit about what's in this book. How important was it for you to show the raw, messy, and sometimes angry aspects of healing from such deep wounds as opposed to a more idealized spiritual journey? Because, hey, we always get those, but the messy ones we don't always see.
Yeah, this one's very, very messy. And like I said, it was a movie in my head. So it wasn't like I sat down and said, how can I write, the messiest breakup story ever? It just kept showing me what wanted to be told. It was kind of like I was taking dictation on some level. Now, I had had a lot of experience with messy breakups, not just in my own life, although this story is not my personal story, but with many of my very closest girlfriends. So I knew the depth of the rage and betrayal and depression and anger that they went through when they were betrayed by a toxic narcissist slash sociopath. And it's ugly. And so it was kind of fun to write some of that stuff. If you're sensitive to the F bomb word, do not buy this book. There are hundreds of them dropped in the book. But it does, the feedback that I'm getting from women is that they feel like for the first time ever, they've been seen and heard for the depth of pain and emotion they've been through trying to get over something like this. So, the story is both funny at times and will have you crying at times. And ultimately, if you've ever been screwed over and betrayed by a lover, there's a good chance you'll find a lot of healing.
Well, that's the important part. I think if people are going to buy, this nonfiction book and read a story, like you said, you're used to writing a fiction. So it would be,
No, vice
whoops,
versa.
or vice versa. I apologize. I apologize. That was my stupid brain going the other way around. But look, you feature several spiritual guides in the book for Holly. Like you have one Deepak, right? How much of their wisdom and spiritual concepts are drawn from your own personal experience and beliefs? Because I know when people get betrayed, they need to look deep inside as to the why, and they often then look for a spiritual way to alleviate the pain.
Well, let's talk about the why first, because what I've discovered in the many years I've been a student of love is that when you're involved with a toxic narcissist, you are not to blame. Even if in retrospect you can see the red flags, you were targeted, you're a victim, you were prey, because these men are often very good looking, charming, charismatic, and they target successful women because they know that successful women have achieved greatness in every area of their life except love. So they actually targeted you. They come in and they know how to whisper in your ear everything your heart has always yearned to hear. And they romance you and they wine and dine you until you become a junkie. And I'm using that word purposely because you become an addict. It's your brain on drugs, this whole state of being in love and thinking, oh my God, there's champagne bubbles running through my veins. I have finally found the one I've been hoping for my whole life. And the first couple of months are great until who they really are shows up. And then you spend all this time knowing that that good guy's in there somewhere. Where did he go? I want him back. What did I do? What can I do? And it becomes this nightmare situation.
Well, you said that Holly's fuck you list is raw and relatable moment of anger. What message do you hope readers are going to take away about processing like intense emotions like you just talked about, rage
Yeah, well, let's
Was
get real. That's what, like, that's what you're feeling.
right.
My sister Debbie wrote the book, The Dark Side of the Light Chasers. She was the Shadow Queen expert. And she always used to say, when you're not releasing the anger, the rage, all the negative emotions, and you're trying to suppress it, it's like having a beach ball. You're trying to hold the beach ball down, but eventually it pops up and hits you in the face, and everybody else becomes aware of it too. So it's actually a necessary part of healing to acknowledge and to release these feelings. And at the same time, when you're not so enraged, find ways to fill yourself up. And often we can't do this alone. And part of the thing that keeps women who've been in these kinds of relationships from sharing is that they feel so much shame and guilt. Oh, I was so stupid. How could I have believed those lies? How could I have handed over this money or this thing or whatever? So Holly experiences the roller coaster, the full range of all these emotions, but she finds a friend in India. She goes to India to actually go to cooking school, not knowing she was going for healing. And she ends up as the student of a man who is the owner of a spiritual bookstore, who's a retired professor of counseling psychology. And so by sharing stories and having his wisdom, she finds ways to get healed. And because she's in Rishikesh, India, she ends up having some amazing mystical enlightenment experiences.
Well, India, I'm glad you got that $7,000 plane ticket so you could get to India to pull this story together. Because, India itself it seems to act as a character in the book. Um, and it provides you with both challenges and profound healing. What aspects of India's culture, spirituality, or physical landscape were really kind of most crucial to Holly's transformation?
Well, it was all of those things, but Rishikesh in particular is considered one of the holy cities, and it is at the foothills of the Himalayas. And the myth is that the veil between the worlds is thinner in Rishikesh than in most places. So just being in that environment next to Ma Ganga, the Ganges River, and it's the largest collection of ashrams and yoga institutes in the world is all in Rishikesh. Being at that frequency, at that vibration lends itself to having spiritual experiences. I was with Deepak Chopra once in southern India at Ramana Maharshi's ashram, and we were getting ready to circumambulate Mount Arunachala. And what that means is under the full moon of Pongal, with 500,000 pilgrims, we were going to walk 13 kilometers as we were praying. And right when we were about to get started, he looked at me with the craziest look in his eyes. And he said, "You know what, Arielle?" And I said, "What?" He said, "In India, spirit is not hard to find. It's impossible to avoid." That's what's true.
I would agree with him. I would agree with him. Now, Holly's superpower is facial recognition. So while Barry claims to be a master strategist, how do these contrasting superpowers play into the dynamics of their relationship and the ultimate unraveling of Barry's deception?
Well, a couple of different ways. So Holly does have super facial recognition, which is something I've learned because my husband has it. And I have whatever the opposite is. I don't remember names or faces. I have like this blindness to it. Um, But in the book, she they go on this big trip together, and she keeps seeing this face of somebody that was on the flight over with them, somebody she saw in their hotel, not knowing this somebody was going to change both of their lives. But every time she mentions it to Barry, "Oh, I've seen that guy before. He's like, you know, we're wealthy tourists. Of course, we would take this flight, and of course, we'd stay at this hotel." And he poo poos it. But at the meantime, when he says, "I'm a master strategist, I always get what I want." I mean, that was like 75 red flags going up at once. Yes, this guy is a master manipulator. This guy is transactional, only out for himself. But Holly, what you don't know at this point is you're the victim.
Ah, yeah, and you the book kind of torches the idea that God never makes mistakes, even when life presents devastating challenges. Um, how can the individuals reconcile, as you were saying about Deepak, you can't miss God in India, this spiritual perspective with real world suffering and betrayal? Because, this is real world. This is what's happening. You're
Oh,
talking
listen,
about.
this is one of the big mysteries of life questions. So for that, you know, where that chapter comes in, I actually got on the phone with Neil Donald Walsh, who wrote Conversations with God, for a couple of hours and just, grilled him and took some of his words that he said to me that day, word for word, into that chapter because Deepak, her spiritual guru, for lack of a better term right now, um, is a big fan of reading the Conversations with God books. So that's what he is saying to Holly. God never makes mistakes. And actually, if we could get to the 30,000-foot level of our life and look down at some of the most devastating things that have ever happened to us, I know when I've done this, I've seen, well, if I could go back now and change it, I wouldn't, because out of this horrible nightmare of an experience that I had, this is where I am today. And I can trace the growth and the progress. So, just as the Buddhists like to say, life does include suffering, but, suffering's actually a choice. One of the big lessons of the book is when Holly gets to learn what Santosha is. So, in our culture right now, Harvard has a happiness study. There are lots of bestsellers on how to be happy. And the conclusion that I've come to is happiness is absolutely the wrong goal. The reason for this is that happiness is dependent on people, experiences, things that we own, and having our goals met. So my goal is, oh, I want the new convertible XYZ car. I get the car, I wreck the car. Now I'm no longer happy. What I found I don't even remember who taught this to me. I found this word from Sanskrit called Santosha.
Mhm.
Santosha means utter contentment. It means no matter what the circumstances, the experiences are, you can find a way to be grounded and be content in spite of the outer world. So that's one of the big lessons that she learns, that, she has been suffering because of this huge betrayal and everything that came with it. But now she can see, oh, what if I just decide in this moment to be content? I'm walking along this beautiful river. I can hear the sounds from the ashram of the chanting. I can see the sunlight dappling through the leaves on the trees on my walk. I can see the smile of a child who's fascinated by me because I'm an American woman with blonde hair in a country where they've never seen blonde hair, right? So she learns Santosha, and that is also one of the big takeaways of the book.
Well, Santosha is something that I think people, until they're aware, until they wake up, because frequently the perspective of themselves is like if I had a picture of Arielle Ford and it was right here and you were looking at your own self, it would be blurry. Until you took a step back and you looked at it a little bit deeper and you changed the perspective about your life and the incidences of your life, right? The things that have occurred to you to say, oh, well, it was negative, but look where I ended up. Uh, and your perspective changes as we age. And I've noticed, I just had my 71st birthday. You certainly take a new perspective about so many things in your life. Now, you introduced the concept of love bombing and socially acceptable form of insanity that follows. What advice would you give to someone who might be experiencing this intense but potentially unhealthy form of love?
Well, it isn't love, okay? It's a manipulation. So, love bombing is when you go out on a first or second date, and already the person across from you is saying, "Where have you been all my life? I have been waiting for you everywhere. Oh my God, you are so beautiful. I feel like we've known each other for a million lifetimes." Blah, 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 blah. And if you don't pick up your purse and run, then you're asking for trouble. That's what love bombing is. They just wanna grab you in, they wanna get you in bed as fast as possible, because for women, having sex from somebody, getting pleasure from somebody, just emits all this oxytocin, the love bonding hormone, and you're on your way to becoming a junkie with them. So, love bombing is one of the earliest signs that you're with somebody who's out to get you.
Mm. So they're being deceptive right from the get-go when they're doing that, and obviously you're saying the men that they're attracted to, are the wrong type. Um, so the ending brings Holly full circus with Carly. What do you believe is the most challenging aspect of forgiveness, especially when the betrayal comes from a close friend or family member?
Right. So Carly was Holly's best friend since 7th grade, business partner, the sister she never had. And suddenly she, at the very beginning of the book, discovers that Carly has had sex with her fiance, who's the bad guy. And in her mind, she can never forgive her, that what Carly has done is unforgivable. And then suddenly, several years later, she runs into her and she has this aha moment, this epiphany where she realizes what a gift it was to have Carly get caught in this situation, because it saved her from actually marrying this guy and having a lifetime of pain. So and Carly, of course, is just so devastated that she's ruined this friendship, that she's able in that moment to forgive her. Now, what we don't know at the end of the book is, how does this relationship continue? Uh, and I don't even know how it continues or if it continues, but that's what forgiveness is, finding the gift in what they did and also beginning to acknowledge that Carly never woke up one morning and said, "How can I ruin my best friend's life?" I mean,
Mhm.
now it was not a conscious intention. It was a sad circumstance that happened, and Carly was also a victim. So, forgiveness is a big thing, and I'm actually a little bit older than you. I've got a whole year on you. And I can tell you, the older you get, one of the funny things that's happened to me is forgiveness has gotten so much easier. And the reason it's gotten easier is because as my memory gets worse, I can't remember what happened that caused me to not like you in the first place. So I'm just going to forgive and forget.
Yeah. Well, look, when you look at all your predecessor books prior to this one being a novel, and all the counseling you've given people in and I want to call a little bit more structured counseling. Why is it that you believe, whether it's a man or a woman, one, people have so much challenge with loving themselves, that they beat up on themselves so much that they take that angle? And two, what would you tell them or advise them to actually have more forgiveness about people that are around them? So we're talking about
Well,
self love
okay, so there's
and
yeah, so let's
forgiveness.
let's deal with self-love first, because I have a lot to say about that. So there's a lot of people trying to make a lot of money to convince you that you need to love yourself in order to find love. And it is absolute bullshit. Okay. All humans are walking around with a critical voice or a choir in their head telling them they're not good enough. Now, it's worse for some people, but everybody has it. And I'll illustrate it with a quick Oprah story. I saw Oprah do an interview once, and she was telling whoever she was talking to, I've interviewed everybody on the planet from Paul McCartney to Barack Obama to kings and queens and blah, 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 blah. And she said, "Do you know what? At the end of every interview I've ever done over decades, they all said the same thing to me. They all said, 'Was that okay?'"
Mhm.
You're not gonna outgrow this critical voice. Now what you can do.
But you're not gonna ask me that at the end of this interview, right?
Yeah, because I know I'm having a good time, so I'm gonna be fine with it. But, the truth is you can learn to turn down the volume,
Right,
critical voice,
right.
and you can learn to come up with a spiritual toolkit on how to cool your jets when you're really beating yourself up. But you don't need to be madly in love with yourself to have big love in your life. And in fact, the fastest way to love yourself more is to get into a relationship. And when you can see the eyes of your lover reflecting back how much they love you, your love frequency automatically goes up. So, having this whole thing, well, I'll start dating when I love myself more is just another excuse to not put yourself out there.
That is so real, and thank you for that because I think that little bit of advice is as good as the advice that you have in this story. Um, Now, the love thief explores different facets of love, from the intense initial in love phase, like you said, the guy that's love bombing you, to the deeper, more mature love Holly finds with Jackson. What do you hope readers understand about the true nature of lasting love? I know you've been married to the same man for quite a few years now. So, how
And
long
we're
have you
twen
guys been married?
we are about to have our 28th anniversary.
Okay, and I just celebrated my 47th
Wow.
year.
Okay, you should answer that question.
Well, the thing about it is I think I would say compromise. And I always remember John Gray used to speak about would you rather be in love? Would you rather be right? And I took a position a long time ago that I'd rather be in love than be right. Because we can all stand on our high horse and say, no, you're wrong, I'm right. No, you're right, I'm wrong. And I have seen more relationships go south as a result of that little John Gray advice that was men are from Mars, women are from Venus, who knows how many zillions of years ago. But as soon as you really understand how much that creates divide, you literally can understand a lot about yourself
Yeah,
because your ego's so big.
yeah. Listen, the at the end of the day, all of us want the same thing. We wanna be loved and respected
Right.
for who we are, and we absolutely need to feel emotionally and physically safe with our partner. That's the requirement. The third piece of that, which people don't talk about, is what's true. There will be days when you absolutely hate your partner, and it doesn't mean that you don't love them.
Right. I like that advice. That's true. I've had plenty of those days, and I'm
We
sure you have
listen, we
too.
all have. Human beings are annoying.
Yeah.
But they don't wake up in the morning saying, "Okay, I wanna make Greg miserable today. What can I do to really get under his skin?" And then we know the things not to do, and then over time, we learn how to manipulate each other, like, I know what to say and what not to say to my partner. I know how to approach things when I wanna get things done. When I wrote my book, Turn Your Mate into Your Soulmate, I literally put scripts in the book for women to use when they need to get to a certain place with their partner and
Mhm.
when to do it and how to do it. And one of the great things John Gray taught me years ago was that for women dealing with a man, the most important thing to remember is tone of voice,
Right.
because you come out there being a bitch, you're not getting anywhere. They
It's
shut you down instantly.
it's all over, baby.
Yes.
Well, look, beyond the romantic relationships, the book highlights the importance of platonic and familial love, like mom, auntie, Mikey, Deepak. How did these relationships to contribute to Holly's overall healing and growth? Because these are important.
Yeah. Well, she was not only heartbroken, but physically broken because when she discovered the betrayal, she was actually texting and driving at the same time and ended up nearly dying in a car crash. So she needed to recover on every level. And so she had this safety net of family and friends who were going to love her up and protect her and take care of her every step of the way. And we all need that. We can't do life alone. Life is really hard, so we need friends. And the one thing that the Harvard 75-year study has proven is that there are two factors that totally relate to longevity. One is if you're in a long term, happy, fulfilling marriage, you're going to outlive your richer friends, your healthier friends, everybody. And the other one is community, having a wide circle of friends and support. So we need all kinds of love, every kind of love you can imagine. Bring it on.
Well, you and I touched on this concept, and I would agree with you on that. The the love that you have within your family at the platonic, it's a very much a different type of love. But it is necessary, for the release of oxytocins as well and serotonin and all the good things that we need in our system to kinda keep us moving on and keep us happy, right? The other thing, as I say, is a big dose of gratitude, or if somebody out there is giving back, there's really a great feeling. I have a nonprofit that works with the homeless in San Diego County, and I mean, I do more for that than the donations that come into this show is how I really have a lot of love. And it's a different kind of love, but it's a love for something that I love doing. You got back into writing because you're like, hey, I took 3 years off and I'm writing this book now but I really like doing something, right? I like being of service, right?
Yeah.
So this book is of service. So let's talk about this. The Santosha, the commitment, and the great happiness is introduced as states beyond fleeting happiness. Can you elaborate on how these states differ and how one might cultivate them in daily life? I think the one about contentment is huge, because I see so many people today that are FOMO, fear of missing out. It's like, hey, well, if I pick up my cell phone, I'm going to get this great message from my lover that's going to tell me whatever. And I just keep checking this thing until I walk into a telephone pole, right? And to me, it's crazy the FOMO.
Well, the whole phone thing is an addiction to dopamine.
Right.
And it's not even discerning good dopamine versus bad dopamine.
Mhm.
Oh, did somebody like my post? Is somebody trying to reach me? And you have put meaning where there is no meaning.
Right.
And so that's over there. In terms of gratitude, I don't think there's a more important thing in the world that you can do. And I start every day before I even get out of bed with a gratitude practice. And what that gratitude practice is I take my attention from my head to my heart, and then I start to envision all the people in my life that I love, that I know love me, and I consciously choose to send them a wave of love and healing and blessing. And, it's a pretty long list, And then if they're not well, then I sort of double up on them and send them healing as well. So, gratitude's super important. It's easy to do. You don't need anything or anyone to do it with, but it fills up your love tank. You
Yeah.
can fill yourself up before you even leave the house in the morning, and then the other thing that I like to do is whenever I pass a mirror, I always blow myself a kiss.
Oh, that's a good
That's
one.
an easy one too.
Yeah. Well, I do realize that as we age, and the body parts keep working. You have to be more grateful that all this stuff is working and is still together. And that is true, folks. So, speaking from somebody who just had a meniscus tear and had to go through surgery and all these.
Oh, I had that surgery.
Oh,
I just want you to know, do all the PT as required.
Yeah.
Mine is so good that I often forget which knee it was.
Oh, well, that's good to know because I'm on like my 3rd month of PT. So,
Oh, I did 6 months, so
yeah,
yeah.
I'll
The surgery
probably
was easy. The PT's a pain in the butt, but
mm,
it's worth doing.
actually, I love the PT.
How you do?
Now, look, this is a great book. I want all our listeners know that they can go to the website, and here's what Arielle has created. She's created a site with all these bonuses, and it's actually at arielleford.com/the hyphen love hyphen thief. But we're going to give it, you can just put it in as thelovethief.com. It'll take you directly there. There you can see the book. She's got a heart healing through yoga video series, early access to the Love Thief, find love, keep love, live. And you're also having this India giveaway. Speak a little bit about that. What is it?
Yeah.
A drawing
So,
in August.
if you pre-order the book, you can enter into this, sweepstakes to win a 10-day tour of India for 2.
Oh my goodness. That's
And we'll be
fantastic.
choosing the winner around August 6th. But I put the whole itinerary together. It's called the Love Thief Tour. It's with my favorite tour company, Athma Tours in India. And you will be walking in Holly's footsteps through Rishikesh and seeing and meeting and being with the places that she went to, including a meeting with the holy woman who has a big impact on her life, who's a real person. Her name is, her name is Sadhvi Bhagwati Saraswati. So you'll go to her ashram and you'll meet with her and
Are you going to go with them?
I won't be on this tour. I just
Okay.
got back from a big tour of India, but
Okay.
you will be in the best possible hands. When I go to India, these are the people who put my itinerary together.
Awesome. Well, do go to thelovethief.com. That'll get you there. We'll put a link in the show notes, in the blog notes. We'll also have a link to Amazon to purchase the book. You can get it in the Kindle version as well. It's at Barnes and Nobles. It's at BAM. It's everywhere. So there's also a really nice video on that page. So it's thelovethief.com. And please go do that. So, Ariel, pleasure having you back on after almost 20 years, 18 years, whatever it is. We're neighbors, but we shouldn't have waited so long in between. Do you have any last words for our listeners about the
Yes, I do. The one thing I really want people to remember is that there's no shortage of love in the world. Whether you're single or you're with somebody, my favorite line from A Course in Miracles is that the only thing that can be lacking in any situation is that which you are not giving. So if you're feeling that you have a love deficit going on, you have all the power in the world to do something about it.
that means you need to start giving love.
To yourself and to everybody else.
Yeah, and I think the important part, if you're with a mate, it's really about giving love to the mate as well, right?
Yeah.
And we're not always talking about sexual love. We're just talking about your ability to be compassionate, to be understanding, to listen, to open up.
To
Um,
put your phone down and actually turn your body towards them and
yeah,
look at them
yeah,
and ask curious questions, you know? Ask them, "How's life for you today? Is there
yeah.
anything I can do to make your life better?" That is a really good question, by the way.
That's a great one. That is a good one. Now, I don't know how many people are brave enough to ask it, but that's one to start with. I do notice that a lot of mornings I come down to the little table we've got, my wife has immediately got her head in a book on a Kindle, right? And you have to drag somebody away from that to get their attention to look at something else. But that is our digital world that we live in. But for all of you who want to learn how not to do that, go read this Love Thief and change some of the ways in which you treat other people and yourself. This is a great book for that. Also, on the other side of thing, you've got Wabi Sabi Love, Hot Chocolate for the Mystical Lover. The Soulmate Secret, and Turn Your Mate into Your Soulmate. Those are some of Arielle's other books. You can see them at the website as well. Arielle, namaste to you. Thanks for being
Thank
on
you. This was
the
fun.
show. Thanks so much.